Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of TeaDB. Today's episode is episode
Number 20.
Number 20. We're turning, we're in our 20s now.
2-0.
Wow.
Yep.
So, James just got back from Korea.
Indeed.
And he brought back some really cool tea. So we're going to drink some today. I know absolutely nothing about Korean tea at all. So James is going to school me, and I'm just going to taste and enjoy. So I'm stoked.
Yep. So today we're going to be tasting a Jungjak tea, and Jungjak is the company. And it's a fairly famous company in Korea, which kind of a very interesting culture as far as tea drinking is concerned. Doesn't drink nearly as much tea as its neighbors China and Japan. Japan mainly drinks green tea. Korea also mainly drinks green tea when they do drink tea. But it does produce some very good tea, and I was actually very, very impressed with this tea. And up to that point, I'd kind of been exploring around Korea, specifically looking for Korean tea. And I hadn't been super impressed with any of the offerings until I ran into this particular tea store, Jungjak.
Cool. So we got some green tea going on here today. It smells lovely. It looks really great too. And how much leaf do we have going on?
Yeah, so I am going a little bit away from the vendor's brewing parameters. We're going to be brewing 5 grams of leaf here, which is more than he would recommend. He would probably recommend 3 to 3.5, and we're going for a little bit lower of a temperature. So we're kind of brewing this in sort of a Japanese style as opposed to the vendor's recommendation.
Cool. Let's do it.
Yep. All right, and so I also brought back some pretty cool teaware from Korea, and where Korea lacks in kind of just like raw tea, they do actually make some very, very cool teaware. And so you can see this teapot actually has no handles.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, it's actually meaning that you can pretty much only brew green tea in here or stuff that needs to be brewed at lower temperatures.
So you'll do a traditional rinse here.
Nope, we will not be doing a rinse.
Okay.
It's a green tea. It's a pretty high quality green tea,
okay.
So it shouldn't be too cloudy. And yep, we're just going to drink it straight up. We can only get 3 or 4 infusions out of this guy, so we're just going to be drinking away.
Right on. So just normal green tea temperatures. How long are we going to steep this for, roughly?
Probably about 45 seconds or so.
Okay.
So for a little bit of time. And we're using a little bit under, closer to Japanese green tea temperatures. So like 160 as opposed to kind of 175 or 180 that you'll use for Chinese green teas, for instance. Yeah,
well, the tea leaves themselves look really beautiful. They're kind of like a dark green. They look a little bit roasted. Nice tea formations. The actual quality of the leaves looks quite nice. Really cool teapot.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of the Korean teaware, and they have some really, really cool stoneware. So this is a device you can use either as a kind of what I'm using, like a chahai, a serving device, or you could use it as a cooling device. So I've experimented with a couple different brewing parameters as far as that. So, but today we're just going to be using it as a brewing device.
Whoa. Sweet, grassy, just your traditional green tea. I'm getting a lot of Japanese green tea smells out of that in a good way. Really high quality. Oh, and then beautiful.
Yeah, we'll get some close-ups for you guys for the actual podcast. All right.
Cool.
Enjoy.
Let's do it. So, very sweet.
Yep, it's got a very sweet, a long, nice aftertaste too. Kind of a corn sweetness.
Exactly going to say corn.
Yep.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Corn and sort of a little bit of vegetal, maybe a little bit of mineral-y, but really a lot of corn coming through in a good way. Not like high fructose corn syrup, but like, yeah, just like a sweet, crisp summer corn or something like that.
Yeah, totally.
Really lovely.
Yeah. It's got a really nice freshness to it. And so when I bought this tea, I actually drank this tea with the tea shop owner, Mr. Ha, and he kept telling me very, very young leaves. So the leaves themselves are very, very small and were picked very young. And so this particular tea is the Jungjak, which is the third basically the third flush of the Korean teas.
Okay.
So the first one, which they had just gotten actually the flush in from autumn, it's called Ujon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that exactly right, but it's a really, really expensive. For 60 grams of tea, it was something like $120, which is expensive.
That's expensive.
Very expensive. And so the second flush, which is kind of the more, it's still pretty expensive, but it's more affordable, is called Sejak. And so you'll hear that term associated a lot with Korean tea. And so this is Jungjak, and then you'll have Daejak, and then you may or may not have later flushes than that.
Got it. Very cool. And so, like a traditional green tea, this is going to go for 3 or 4 steepings. The first steeping you probably don't want to rinse unless it's a lower quality tea. And totally a great tea just right out of the box. I agree with the longevity of the flavor. It's quite nice. And the brewing parameters here are really nice in terms of the stringency. So no stringency whatsoever, no tannin feel, just nice, kind of a thin, but the body is good on this for sure.
Yep, and that's one thing I like about kind of the lower temperature and more leaf of some of the Japanese brewing styles, is that you're able to get more body out of a green tea, which is usually really, really light. Mm-hmm. And I think that body is one of the more interesting things you can exert out of green tea.
Great. And the teapot itself is quite good. I mean, we're getting hardly any actual residual leaf here with no strainer.
Yep.
And that's also a product of the tea itself. There's very little particulate in the tea. And the first brew was very thin. Quite nice.
Yep.
Let's try it again.
So I actually prefer the second brew in this case. It's got when I drank at a different Korean tea shop, she kept saying that the second brewing was stronger, and I generally find that to be the case for these teas.
I'm getting actually a kind of a roasted barley genmaicha nose out of it.
Yeah, I can definitely get that.
Mm-hmm. But it's still got that sweet corn, although I think this one around is a little bit more of the traditional, I would call kind of the hay barnyard taste of green tea, like a Japanese green tea.
And this one does have small hints of bitterness. Yeah. Not much, but a little bit.
Yeah. Interestingly, actually, I think you also brewed it for a little bit less time this time.
I did.
Yeah. So I wonder how much of that is related to the teapot itself heating up and
and the leaves heating up as well.
Right, and being a little bit more soaked. Yep. This is really nice. When would you drink this tea?
I would probably drink this tea sometime in the afternoon. Now is not a bad time to drink it, kind of as we're moving into the more autumn season, as this tea is very spring-like. And here in Seattle, we get a lot of clouds, so just having this nice, fresh spring thing it kind of cheers me up a little bit and looks forward to some of the more sunny times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I could have this by itself, or maybe with a light meal, nothing too heavy. I think that the crispness of the taste itself it lasts on its own.
I agree, and for me, green teas are best done without anything that will really overpower it. This is really appreciated just when you're allowed to get its high notes, its nice spring and fresh notes.
Cool. Well, this is delicious. How can people learn more about this tea, James?
Yeah, so you can learn more about this tea at TeaDB.org. We're going to be reviewing another Korean tea next time, a black tea, which is a very unusual offering for Korea. And you can also buy this tea. There's a couple of vendors that offer Dongchon teas in America, and I've actually corresponded a little bit with their representative here, Arthur, and he's been very, very helpful. He helped me kind of direct me to the tea shop because I was lost and confused in a foreign land. So you can buy this tea from Phoenix Tea House. It's a little bit expensive, but it's pretty good. And there's also a couple other vendors, I'm not entirely sure on their name, that you can purchase this tea from.
Cool. So let's call that a wrap for episode 20 of TeaDB.
Yep.
We'll see you guys next time for more Korean black tea.
Yep. Thanks, guys, for watching.
Ciao.